Hi everyone, Hadley here with Hillcrest Tennis. Today we are going to be talking about some of my favorite tips and tricks to use for kids tennis. Our junior program here at Hillcrest is expanding, and we're extremely excited to see all of our members bringing their kids out to participate in our racket sports and using our recreational facilities. So, you know, one of the big things that the USTA is really emphasizing, and also just the tennis training in general that's out there, there's a really big emphasis on making sure that the kids have the right equipment and that we're using our progression steps into the sport. So we don't just go straight into hitting the tennis ball, but we also have to develop strong gross motor skills and also fine motor skills to help facilitate success for the kids on the court, so that they're not losing interest very quick right off the bat, so that they're engaged in the sport and they're having some success. So my goal for today is to just quickly go over some of my favorite drills and some of the things that we like to implement into our junior program to help develop an entire athlete and also the individual. So first off, we're going to talk about the footwork, and then we'll talk about balance, and then hand-eye coordination, and then using the hand-eye coordination and then transitioning into movement. And then I'll also be giving some of my tips and tricks and also some tools that we like to use here at Hillcrest. So let me just make an adjustment here on the screen so that you can see what we're going to do. So first off, we want to make sure that the kids have the correct equipment. So making sure that they have the right size racket, a 21, 23, 25, or 26-inch racket based on their age, their strength, their height, and then also their ability. If they have too heavy of a racket, it's going to be difficult for them to swing the ball and to also be able to maneuver the racket so that they can make contact with the ball. So, and then we also, just as a quick overview, we like to use a lot of the foam balls here. A lot of you have seen those, and a lot of our members like to use these when they bring their kids out to play, using the red, orange, and foam balls, because these low compression balls, they don't bounce as hard as a regular green ball, and so it's easier for the kids. So it's not such a hard bounce off the ground, but it slows it down and it allows them to progress and to have a little bit of success. Okay, so footwork. So we really like to start with the feet, and then we kind of move up with our hand-eye coordination. So we have these ladders here, and this is a huge thing for kids to be able to move and to coordinate the body with their movement. So, typically it's just like 2 feet in, okay, and then 2 feet back. We also like to set up the cones so that they're weaving in and out of the cones. A lot of times we'll set up these obstacle courses, which provides an opportunity for them to kind of coordinate their brain, because it's not the same thing all the way through. And so, we go through the ladder, we jump over some tubes, weaving through cones, double hops, single leg hops, those kinds of things, to develop and teach the brain how to balance, and move with your body. So we really like to use the ladders and also the cones here, and we even like to have the kids weaving through the cones, and then eventually they'll bounce and hit, or they throw. So it's coordinating that movement, and then the hand-eye coordination. And it's just all about progression. So start Start small and move big. We don't start big and then try and focus on the little important things. We really need to establish a strong foundation. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about footwork. Balance is another big one that we really like to focus on. So a lot of times we have these cones. They're a little bit more, a little bit of a flat with a hole in the top. And what we'll do is we'll have them, a little bit so you can see. So we'll have them put it on the ground. And then what they're going to do is they're going to opposite foot, opposite hand, and then they're going to go down, bounce on the cone, and have to bounce back up, and then they switch to pick it up. So it's even difficult for adults to do it. So really trying to, and you'll see them try and figure out how to do it. And then it's also teaching their brain opposite hand, opposite foot, because in tennis, it's opposite hand, and then you have to step with the opposite foot. So it's that coordination and that balance, because tennis is about balance as well. If we can be balanced getting out to the tennis ball, now we're going to have control. We're going to have racket and ball control. So the earlier we can teach this skill, it's the same across the board for a lot of other sports. Balance is extremely key in being able to have control of your body. And so that's one that we really, really like to do. Another one is we call it passing the egg. So depending on the skill level, it's easier with these harder balls, but just having them stand on one foot here and then balancing the ball. And then what they'll do is they'll pass the ball to their partner, but standing on one foot. And then we'll switch and then switch hands so that they're learning how to coordinate all of that. And then one of the very basic main principles is just that moving into the hand-eye coordination part of things is really being able to just bounce and catch that ball. Really just a basic skill, but a skill that is overlooked, in my opinion, quite significantly, because if they can't bounce and catch the ball, they can't bounce and make contact with the ball. So really trying to emphasize, there's all sorts of progressions that you can do. What we like to do is we like to just try and bounce and alternate the hands here. Okay, and then we'll move into bounce and traps. So our lobsters is what we like to call them. Bounce and traps. And then as they get better at that, then they can toss and trap. Toss and trap. And these are all things that they can do at home in a small area, and just practice it over and over and over again. And then we like to do our ups and our downs. So ups, if that's too difficult, we'll say, okay, so you're going to let it bounce, you're going to bump it, and then trap it. Let it bounce, bump, trap. And then the down, same thing. Down, trap, until they can progress into that racket control. And this is where having the correct ball, correct racket comes into play, because if the racket is too heavy, they can't learn that control. And so they're not strong enough, especially when they're really little. Okay, and then the other thing that we really like to do is we like to take these regular cones here, and we like to toss and catch it in the cone. And what we'll do is we'll have a partner throw, and then the other partner is going to catch, and then they're going to throw back. So sometimes we'll have them underhand so that they're practicing that control, or sometimes we'll have them throw overhand to practice that serving motion that they'll need to learn later on. And then one of the other big things that we really like to emphasize is working together with partners, because if they're hand fed from us, then there's never a variation, because it's always very simple. There is a purpose for us being there, but it's working together with a partner. And then it allows us as coaches to kind of float and to be able to help kids and really make sure that they're doing it correctly. And they're all engaged at the same time. And that's super important. And then once we progress from the bounce and catches, then now there's all sorts of variations that we can do. I really like to get the kids on the backboard or on the side wall and pull the curtain back. And what we do is we throw, and then we immediately get ready, and then we're going to catch. And so we're throwing and catching back and forth off of that wall, and it's coming back every time. And it really gets that hand-eye coordination going. One thing that we really like to do as well is we have a balloon, and they take then they start to rally back and forth with the balloon. Because now, once they have that hand-eye coordination, now we're going to be working on that racket control. And that's going into that movement and hand-eye coordination. But learning how to control the ball by using a balloon. We also have beach ball. We like to use the beach balls. And so that, they learn how to pass it back and forth, and just learning that racket control with a partner. But really, those are some of our favorite tips and tricks as to what we like to do here at Hillcrest. We are always looking for opportunities to learn and to keep implementing new ideas into our program. But really, our main objective is that we really want our kids and our members to have success and enjoy the game of tennis, because without them and without the enjoyment of tennis, I really think it's a great sport, and we want our program to grow. So hope this helps. Definitely stuff you can practice at home. And thanks for joining us today. Please reach out if you would like any other ideas, or if you have any other tips or tricks. We are always open for new ideas. Thanks, and have a wonderful weekend.